so loud.
Okay, what about it? I can't do anything about it. On
Oh,
Discord, I
geez.
can actually change the settings of my mic. On here, I don't know.
You can just do it in
Okay.
Windows settings.
What?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, well. Don't care.
Or you could, like, talk further from your mic, or...
Don't care.
There he goes.
Oh, shoot, am I supposed to have the script out?
Hello, everybody. You're listening to The Table Corner, a podcast hosted by Kenneth Vo, Jordan Scott, Elijah Pepito, William Ashcraft, and Jonathan Thomas. yo.org/program. Okay, so today we're going to be discussing COVID-19 and quarantine as a whole, how it's affected us and everything. So I'm joined here with my co-host, William,
Hello.
Kenneth.
Can you start
Say
over?
hi, man.
How do you miss that? You're just gonna say hi.
Say hi.
You could have been quiet the whole hour. You just had to say hi.
All right. Okay, if you look at the audio, Will says hi, and then there's like quietness. So just cut Kenneth out. And then just
What do you mean
say
cut
hi.
Kenneth out?
Yeah, say hi.
Shut up, dude. I run the show. I can take you out.
Good luck, buddy. All right.
I'm here with my co-hosts, Will,
Hey.
Kenneth,
Hey.
Jonathan,
Hey.
and Elijah.
All right.
I'm here with my co-hosts, Will,
Hey.
Kenneth,
Hey.
Jonathan,
Hey.
and Elijah.
Hello.
Okay, so what do you guys want to talk about first? You want to talk about like the global impact of COVID-19, or?
Yeah, the virus has definitely impacted the whole world in a couple of different ways, especially economically. A lot of local restaurants aren't able to get as many customers because people aren't going outside. Bigger restaurants have the ability to do drive-throughs or delivery or stuff like that, but smaller restaurants are totally struggling right now, not being able to make a lot of their bills, and kind of need a bunch of help.
Yeah. There was a nearby Italian restaurant here in like Rowlett that I saw on Twitter. It was they were asking like I had to go like a FundMe page, whatever. And they're struggling, like you were saying, and basically they were asking people to basically buy food to eat in, but at the same time, it's like a lot of people are also not working right now, so it's gonna be hard for any of those local businesses to like survive right now. Honestly.
And a lot of people not working is obviously like it's both sides of the economy are getting hit. There's no workers to create products, and there's nobody to use the products because everybody's staying inside, right? And so
Yeah.
you see on the news stock market crash or like close down, or people can't trade on the floor or stuff like that. And it's definitely rough for everybody on a global scale.
Yeah, I'm really hungry. It's been so long since I've gotten fast food. And
Yeah. And I especially feel bad for like the smaller business owners, because not only can they not feed themselves, but they can't feed their workers. Like they can't pay for it because they're not getting money. They can't pay their employees. Like
Small restaurants, it's just any small businesses like nail salons or like shoe stores, clothing stores, stuff like that.
Yeah, because a lot of these smaller businesses don't really have a lot of stock or people investing in them. So they're really self-reliant. So if people aren't buying their products, how are they going to make any money? How are they going to keep people employed? Also, speaking of big corporate jobs, I heard that if some workers weren't able to go to their jobs or they wanted to self-quarantine, they were only given limited amount of days. So people believe that big business would be the reason that coronavirus really spread, because a lot of people who worked in the food service industry would get sick and they would transmit it to
and
everyone
like
around
with the
them.
more people that get sick, the more like you have hospitals are getting crowded.
Yeah, it definitely becomes a hazard to have so many people getting care in one place. And of course, the more people that get care next to each other, faster the virus spreads, and that requires more people in one place. And of course, the more people that get care next to each other, faster the virus spreads, and that requires more people to get care, which means that more people are going to be next to each other, which causes the virus to spread, and it ends up being really rough in hospitals.
So I heard from my mom, who's an ICU nurse, that her hospital has started their own COVID unit. So they're trying their best to separate the people who've tested positive for COVID from regular patients to try and limit the spread of the disease in hospitals.
So, on a happier note, it's everybody staying inside has kind of had a positive environmental impact. I think I saw carbon emissions going way lower than normal. A lot of companies are using less of their machines, and the skies are starting to sort of clear up in our ozone.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's also taking a toll on everyone's like mental health. Yeah, staying inside though, it still had like a negative effect on everyone's mental health. Now kind of people are starting to go out more, exercise more, or get invested into more hobbies during quarantine. But without going outside, it's still like, what's the word here? So, what do you guys back me up?
Depressing.
Yeah, it's really depressing.
It's really depressing. It's mentally deteriorating. That's a better way to phrase that, I guess.
Yeah, and I especially feel bad for like extroverts because like what are they doing right now? Like they just have to sit at home and not talk to anyone. Has anyone here like have you been going out at all?
So yeah, I've decided that I'm not very happy staying inside all the time. So just in the mornings when it feels pretty empty outside, I usually go out for a run, but I always make sure I keep a mask on me. It sucks, but it's a really good way to
Yeah, it
protect
seems like
yourself
the
from
safest
COVID.
thing to do is to just wear a mask, always stay 6 feet apart from everyone.
Mhm. And there's obviously a huge need of some way to make sure that everybody gets masks. Like I know, for example, my mom made our family all of our masks from materials that we had here at the house. So, I mean, does anybody else have any creative solutions like that?
So some of my friends have talked about using bandanas and just tying them around their face, and as long as it protects your mouth and nose,
Yeah, I
it
heard
should
people
work.
use like just old t-shirts and sewn them together as a mask. I don't know. What I have is just like a regular medical mask. So it's not really an issue for me.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are discrediting the amount that you really need to like be washing your hands because masks are certainly going to help, but washing your hands is going to be one of the most effective ways to prevent the virus's spread. Because like when you go to Walmart, you're touching on everything, and there's going to be germs everywhere, and you need to wash your hands, or you risk spreading it or getting it yourself. And I think a lot of people are really discrediting, or you risk spreading it or getting it yourself. And I think a lot of people are really discrediting that.
Yeah, when it comes to chips, like you're supposed to open. Am I supposed to like sterilize the chip bag?
Bro, shut up.
No, this is a serious matter. Shut up if it's a little bit wacky. But come on, think about it. Like it's so complicated. You have to buy the chip bag from Walmart, wash your hands right after you're at Walmart, right? And then you open the chip bag, and then but when you open the chip, so do you have to wash the whole chip bag? I think you do. Like that's if you want to safely eat chips, it's either you leave that chip bag out in the sun for 48 hours, or you literally have to deep wash that chip bag, and that's just so strange. Have you ever thought about that? I think I'm the only one who thinks about these things.
Wait, now I'm curious. Wait.
Yeah, think about it. This isn't. I'm not some crazy conspiracy theorist. This is like a real. Like it's like. This is like. Like it's like. This is like okay. If you open a contaminated bag, you're gonna touch a chip with your hands to eat it, or you dump the chip into your mouth. You dump the chips into your mouth from the bag. Either way, it's unfair.
Anyway,
Stay safe, kids. Wash your hands. Wash your chip bags.
Yeah, I think we're done with this segment, Elijah.
Yep. So, not discrediting the importance of washing your chip bags, but staying 6 feet apart has been something that, it's not necessarily easy. Nobody has a ruler out there, right? Like how I know some of the bigger stores set up spots in line or something where everybody can stay 6 feet apart, but often staying 6 feet apart can not necessarily be the easiest thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to be that far away from people when we're so used to being like packed in,
Mm-hmm.
I depend on my.
Go to school?
I mean, kinda. So, since our spring break is basically still going because it never really ended, I kind of miss real school more than like online school, I guess. Because the entire online school thing is really inefficient for most students. Not only because like not everyone has access to Wi-Fi or technology, but students aren't really committed to their classes as much with how online schooling is structured with Google Meets and homework assignments. They don't really have an incentive to actually do it
Mm.
since they
It-
aren't really studying for a test that's coming up or having big projects that are due, since the system was changed to a pass or fail system, so that people didn't really have an incentive to do all of their homework or put all their effort into projects for school.
Mhm.
That's very true. Another thing I would say is that, now that we're seniors, we really only have 1 year left of high school. I mean, that 1 year left of high school. I mean, that really isn't much. So it kind of sucks that we missed out of like 2 or 3 months of
And
just hanging out
there's
with our
even a
friends.
considerable chance that what this next year, especially the fall, looks like is not going to be a traditional year, and so our senior year is going to be a lot different, and we kind of missed the end of junior year, right?
Yeah, and we're not even sure if COVID's gonna end before our school year starts. I was talking to one of our teachers about this, Mr. Zatmir, because I had to do a mentor session with him for my EE. I asked him what he thought, like when would Corona end, right? And he said he didn't really know, but he wanted to think it would end during fall, like in the middle of fall.
Would you rather we go back to school in fall or just have online schooling for the first half of the year? For me, honestly, I don't want to do this online schooling stuff anymore, man. Like you were talking about motivation, and I really have none.
I think it's definitely the safer choice to do online schooling. But as you're saying, it's probably better for an education standpoint to go back to school.
Yeah, if there's some creative solution that school districts can pull out, then yeah. I mean, if it's a little tricky to pull off, then yeah, it's definitely going to be worth it because it's really hard to learn online. It's a lot more difficult.
Yeah, I know the CDC has given guidelines for back to school, like for public schools, and I believe that they wanted every desk to be 6 feet apart from one another. And I don't.
Realistic.
I think it's a good idea. I don't know about the application of it in public schools though.
I personally don't agree with their current guidelines. It's not really like practical.
Like as it is at our high school, Garland, like we already have a lot of classes which are packed as is, and if you're trying to fit in order to fit all your students into each class 6 feet apart, you'd need just way more room than like Garland has combined. So it's it's just unsafe to open it up to public right now.
And even outside of the space, we'd also need a lot more teachers.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that point?
Okay, so if we need more teachers in each classroom, because if we just had like the teacher on a screen, it'd be the same as online schooling. There'd be no point in bringing the students back and putting them in potentially harm's way.
Well, another thing we need to think about is how many people are affected by COVID-19 right now? Like how many teachers right now? Like how many teachers? Because that information isn't really available to us. We don't actually
Yeah, if say 25% of teachers aren't able to come back to school because of something relating to the virus, well, how do you have classes? Do 25% of your students sit and wait, or like where we need some sort of extra person solutions so that we can get all this schooling to kind of come off the ground, right?
Yeah. If a substitute doesn't show up in 5 minutes, you can leave, right? I'm pretty sure that's how that works.
All right, I'm cutting that out.
Why? Okay.
So I mean, even going like that far into the next school year, let's talk about this summer. So like this is basically our last summer because senior year, once it becomes summer, we've graduated. So I mean, when you think about it, we're kind of like losing out on this. because I mean, this is basically our last summer because senior year, once it becomes summer, we've graduated. So I mean, when you think about it, we're kind of like losing out on this because I mean, there's not much we can really do and still be safe.
You're kind of right about that, but I still know people that are going outside, like for their summer. I know tennis kids that are still practicing, and I have a couple friends that go biking every once in a while together. Everyone does like wear a mask and stuff, but they're not really limited to just their house for entertainment during the summer.
Yeah, at this
Yeah.
point, we're deep enough into the quarantine that I believe that many people are just tired of it and they're just breaking it because, I mean, they can. It's their choice. So I know that there's like a lot of people that are just going out and hanging out with each other regardless of the current situation. So I guess for them, they're not really losing out on their summer.
I
Yeah.
mean, granted, they're not really allowed to go to like malls or movie theaters or whatever, but they're still going outside. They're not being limited to just their house, like I said.
Yeah, I think if we all kind of get creative with protections and stuff, we're not necessarily losing our summer, but we're definitely like summer looks a lot different from the perspective of inside your house all day, right?
Along with that, some people who were like wanting to travel or go on road trips aren't going to be able
Mhm.
to do that because travel
Yeah,
restrictions
I
right now.
know, especially because this is really our last summer since we're going into senior year. My family wanted to jump into some sort of road trip or something for our last summer, but we didn't really get that kind of opportunity, and so we have to kind of push things around and see if is there a time of year down the line where we could even do something like that.
Yeah, a similar thing happened to me. I was supposed to go to California in June.
A family reunion type thing with my uncles and aunts. Well,
Man,
this
I wish
June,
I could.
and I'm not going.
I wish I could go to Disneyland right now, but nah, I'm stuck here.
But it wasn't even just summer stuff. Like I know they could have gone to Florida this year.
I believe.
Actually, I think Jordan should explain this
Well,
part.
yeah, band was gonna go to California to go to Disneyland, and that got canceled like just before we were gonna go. Like, because quarantine happened in our spring break, and we were supposed to go the week after spring break. So band kind of got shafted.
Yeah, and it's still currently spring break. Spring break never really ended.
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
Yeah, we're
It is
in
spring
the
break
summer.
still.
Technically, both.
Last time I checked, we didn't go back to school after spring break.
Yeah, so it's still spring break, kid.
Dude, I remember being so hype. Like, whenever I was like, yes, Corona break, let's go. I was like, yes, Corona break, let's go. And then now.
I'm just depressed now.
Yeah.
I'm mentally deteriorated.
Yeah, the first 2 weeks of coronavirus were really nice because we got a big break from school. So I don't know. So
It's very
big that
much-
school ended.
It's been
Yeah.
so long since I've done anything productive.
Yeah, it's definitely like a too much chocolate kind of situation. Like, yeah, it felt really good, and we were all really excited to get started on the break. But now that we've eaten all of it, all of us kind of feel sick, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely get that.
Yeah, it's actually gotten really, really boring doing like the same thing every day.
So how are you gonna segue to mental health?
We're in physical
Yeah.
health, right? Or are we doing mental health?
Oh, physical. My bad. Physical health.
Okay. So we could just be like, oh, the day is like really monotonous. Have you guys been exercising?
Yeah,
actually.
I think that
Yeah, say that, Jordan. I have something. Keep that in.
Wait
Okay,
till
okay.
wait till 118.
Okay. Yeah, I pretty much agree that the days have gotten like really monotonous recently. So like, have you been working out at all?
Yeah, actually, yeah. I've been running with like my parents have been biking and I've been running like alongside them, kind of like weirdly, but it's like motivating me and it's something new because I honestly I haven't been running outside as much until like more recently. And honestly running has been helping me just like have something to do, plus it lets me like use up some of the energy that I just spend sitting down doing nothing at home for most of the time, and it makes me feel better because it gives you a more positive side. and helps with just like trying to cope with the fact that we're probably gonna be stuck here for a couple more months. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so along with that, one thing that I've done is whenever the gyms start to close and we weren't able to use weights, or I wasn't able to use weights like I did before, I had to switch to a lot of body weight exercises. So it's been really interesting to find new ways to work out and get around the limitations of
Oh
the
yeah.
situation at hand.
I feel you because I have this arm like a pull up bar, but I never really used it that much. But I've been doing way more pull ups and everything, trying to work on my back. Um, and my sister's also like a gymnast, whatever. So she has to like work out sometimes, and she's been teaching me like I've been trying to work on my flexibility too. So and a lot of her workouts, whatever, are gonna be all like just no weights or anything. So it's been good. I've been basically working on flexibility and like pull ups and everything like that. Oh, also been learning like a martial art, whatever. Kind of, it's more like just like it's something called arnis, like a Filipino stick fighting thing, but it's still kind of good
Oh,
for your
Cali?
shoulders. You feel me?
Yeah, and all of that is really essential to kind of replacing the ability to go to school, to walk, and to move around throughout the day. I know, especially here at home, it's a lot easier to just kind of sit and do nothing, and that's super unhealthy for your physical health.
Notice how Jordan and I haven't been talking this whole time about physical health.
It's
I'll give
okay.
you, I'll give you $1 if you
This whole time about physical health.
It's
give
okay.
you, I'll give you $1 if you keep that in.
But yeah, even if you don't really like exercise, going outside still is very important. Like sometimes I would just go into my backyard and help my mom like with the garden. Like I'm not really active, but I'm still like getting fresh air.
Yeah, that's good. Plus, you're tending to a garden, so that's nice.
Hmm.
Well, I think part of that does bring up a good point. Like the watching your diet within quarantine is definitely something that is going to be a little bit trickier, right? With school, we had a specific lunch time and we had specific meals that we got to eat where we could plan something ahead and bring it from home. But with quarantine, I kind of find myself just moseying into the pantry we have and just kind of grabbing something light as a snack. And then I'm snacking all day and I feel like I'm eating more.
Man, 70% of the stuff I have to cut out is just Elijah talking.
Come on, stop hating.
But it's true.
It's funny. Nah, it's not.
Okay, wait a second.
Alright,
Let's get
so
back on track.
diet.
Okay, so I would say on the flip side of what Will's saying, because now that I don't have as much access to junk food, I've really been starting to cook my own food more and really watch what I'm eating, which is something I really didn't do before because I was so busy with everything
Man, look
else
at this
around
guy,
me.
healthy.
Yeah.
What a
Oh,
Chad.
what a loser.
What a guy.
All right, I
Alpha
didn't
Chad.
I came
But
here
nah, but for real though, I ate some ice cream for breakfast. I'm not even joking. Like I woke up and I found that there's like literally no like non-perishables, and we were running out of chicken tendies. So like I got I got some ice cream.
for. Cut that out.
Why?
Cut
It's
that out.
real. This is real. This is the depressing life of a teenager during quarantine who didn't have no chicken tendies. So I went to the freezer.
All right, I'm cutting that part out. All right, please stop. But Jonathan, can you elaborate more on like your diet? Like, what are you cooking? Or what are you eating to try to stay healthier during quarantine?
So yeah, part of my diet right now stems from the fact that because of quarantine, my parents only go to the store really twice a month and they buy a lot of food in bulk. So with that, I have to try my best to finish all the non-perishables, and that leads me to like trying to cook something healthy but also tasty compared to before, which was just like grabbing the first thing
Yeah,
available and eating it.
because physical health as a whole is pretty closely related to mental health. Like
And eating it.
because physical health as a whole is pretty closely related to mental health. Like especially being in quarantine all the time, it can be kind of difficult to maintain yourself mentally when you're not able to talk to anybody, right?
Yeah.
Me personally, like not being able to see a lot of my friends. I don't know if I would include you guys in that.
What the heck?
But-
Wait, whoa, wait, hold up. No,
Yeah.
okay, pause.
Keep
Wait,
that
hold
in.
on.
Keep that in.
Wait,
Shut up. Shut
why
up.
am I even in the podcast?
Shut up. Kenneth.
Yeah, you had better friends. Why weren't they in here, huh?
Right.
Get yourself a new editor. I don't
Yikes.
need to be here. Do we keep that?
Yeah, I'll be the editor now, guys. My community time
we'll
is
keep that.
better.
Yeah, not being able to see a lot of your friends and the people that you're used to seeing as frequently, and not being able to see them at all in person, can kind of make it a little tough to feel like.
When you're like restricted to your like just your digital devices and everything like that, you don't really know who's available to talk to, and really if you don't really build your like a common like group of people to talk to during this time, and if like in like before, if like pre-quarantine you were mostly just talking to people who are just around like in your classes or whatever, you have to start like building that group of people that you talk to on a daily basis or something like that.
Oh yeah, because like now we're really limited to who we can talk to because some of your friends in school don't really use social media that you do or do things that you do that involve like using your devices or your right because that's all we. I'm gonna cut this part out.
No.
You were doing so good.
Your devices or your right because that's all we. I'm gonna cut this part out.
No.
You were
I-
doing so good.
Yeah. No,
okay,
oh my-
The
Kenneth,
the point I'm trying to get across is valid, but I was just stuttering a lot, and I didn't
Yeah.
really know how to add on to it.
Restart.
Go ahead.
I definitely get what you're saying, Kenneth. Like nobody exactly planned for this and had like contact systems set up. A lot of people who we weren't as close to right before spring break, right before quarantine, like we don't have ways to contact them. There's no universal kind of system that we ever set up because this was so unexpected, right?
Yeah, you get it. Yeah, I don't even have to speak.
Oh, funnily enough, like I've actually kind of talked to people more. Like I was saying before about like building those relationships with like people, like so that you talk to people. Actually started making like friends that I haven't really talked to before the whole quarantine thing started, and it's mostly just based on like since they're available online or like I don't know. I like at the start of the quarantine, I kind of just try to talk to people, ask them for like movie recommendations and everything like that, and sometimes like I found one person who really gave me a lot of good movie recommendations and everything like that, and like I talk to them like even now.
List.
Shut up. It is super normal watching movies by yourself.
The list.
Yeah, on it. Oh,
Super normal.
yeah, watching movies by yourself, honestly, it's
You
a good form of
seriously watching movies
entertainment,
by yourself
See,
right
I'm
now?
not a loser.
and it's also good for your mental health. Like
Are
honestly,
you
because
seriously watching movies by yourself right now?
Wait,
Dude.
is it legitimately good for your health, or are you just saying that?
legitimately good for your emotional health, because in quarantine what I'll be feeling a lot of the time is that, oh my god, I have not done anything, like nothing's changing and everything feels stagnant and I have nothing to feel, or I'll be feeling really down and there's nothing I can do to really pick myself up. But if you watch a movie, you're not only entertaining yourself but like providing like your brain stimulus, whatever like that. But really, like when you engage yourself with these like movies that like have like emotional plot lines and you relate yourself to these characters and everything, you really get to spend your time that you'd spend doing nothing, worrying about the character in a movie or a show. And honestly, if something happy, like if it has like a happy ending or some like the character succeeding, I mean, in a sense, like you get to feel kind of that, and then you kind of remind yourself, oh man, like after this quarantine, like that's for me, honestly, is that if I relate myself to a character, and the story's good and I liked it, maybe there's it makes you feel better about the character and about life itself, because right now we can't really experience life outside of our houses like we used to.
Yeah,
I definitely agree with that. It's a good way to like, spend an hour if you have nothing
Yeah,
better
kind
to
of
do.
going off of what you said actually. Quarantine's actually the perfect time to catch up on shows and movies that you've never seen.
Oh yeah,
Like, I
definitely.
know a bunch of people that um during quarantine, this was like their first time watching Avatar, or they
Oh really? Dang. Yeah, good for them. Good.
That's actually
yeah. I mean, Avatar just came out on Netflix, and it's people
Classic.
think that's a good show. So
Good animation.
yeah, and even then, people are like everyone's connecting online over that show being released.
that's a good show. So
Good animation.
Yeah, and even then, people are like everyone's connecting online over that show being released on
Even our
Netflix.
teacher was like liking posts on Instagram about it, and it was pretty good, honestly. It was,
and
it's
yeah,
really exciting to see how we can connect through shows and popular trends like that. You know what I mean, Jordan?
Jordan has not said a
Yeah.
word.
We can cut that out. We can cut that out.
There you go.
anyway,
Anyway, yeah.
all the shows and stuff like that are really I think they're really important to kind of fight off that boredom, right? Like
Yeah.
boredom's one of the strongest emotions of like pain or badness that we can experience, because it's such a lack of stuff to do, that using shows and communication like that can really kind of save us mentally.
Yeah, boredom just motivates that like depression, like that feeling of depression, like that feeling of existential dread, and like maybe that's a little bit pessimistic, but like honestly, I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you guys have anything to say other than that? Like,
I'm bored right now.
yeah, you can agree
Yeah,
with it.
we're so bored. We're making a podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we're making this actually for a cast project, Kenneth, and if you remember correctly.
No, I don't remember.
Come on, Kenneth.
Yeah, come on, Kenneth.
I was just told to get on call.
Well,
Kenneth doesn't know what's going on.
no matter how you fight off boredom, in order to keep your mental health together, keeping a good physical health can actually help with your mental health, right? The two are, like I said, the two are definitely closely related, and it's often making sure that you're physically active can make sure that you don't kind of slip into place.
Yeah. A lot of times, like working out is a good coping mechanism, like a healthy coping mechanism, because if you work out, you can feel better about yourself, etc. Like that. It's the same thing for this quarantine. I mean, you're not really exposed to regular people, and maybe if you're insecure, you start doubting yourself. So if you're working out, you're really working on yourself. And that's all you can really do during this quarantine is work on yourself.
No, I definitely agree with that because I mean, if you're just sitting here and you're not doing anything to improve yourself, you're gonna feel really bad after this is all over. But if you're, keeping yourself healthy, at the very least maintaining what you're doing, you'll be a lot happier and you'll feel a lot
Yeah,
better
you're
about
making me
yourself
feel
by the
bad
end of
right
this.
now.
It's all about coping, honestly. Like some people will cope using that objective of like improving themselves physically, but a lot of people will also maybe they'll be reading or watching movies or getting themselves learned, playing video games, stuff like that. But honestly, at the end of the day, all the things that we're doing during this quarantine is really just to cope with the fact that we're not really able to go out and socialize like we normally can.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And
that's true. What you said about
Yeah.
learning new things. Like I know Jordan he wanted to try learning a new coding language. He wanted to learn Python.
Yeah, I was trying to learn Python earlier, and it was a really fun experience. And I recommend like trying to learn a coding language to anyone who like wants to do it because it's a pretty useful thing. It's really fun to learn, and it definitely helped me like keep myself entertained
What did
during
you
the
use?
monotony.
What did you use to like learn?
I was self-taught, sort of.
You didn't like? Is there any like books or
I mean, there are
websites?
books, but like,
You just open.
but sort of.
You didn't like? Is there any like books or
I mean, there are
websites?
books, but like,
You just open.
If you want to get into learning how to program, YouTube is almost always the best mentor. People post like tutorial videos that are
yeah.
really
It's a good
comprehensive.
recommendation, Jonathan. You go on YouTube.
Yeah, that's how I decided to learn C++.
Nice.
Also, Kenneth, aren't you
Yeah,
learning a new
I'm
software
learning
too?
Blender. It's a software to create models and stuff in 3D. I got into it so I could try to like make models of architecture ideas that I thought were neat, but I don't know. It's pretty hard to get into
Yeah.
for me anyway, since YouTube isn't really helpful with that.
I mean, you just have to know what you want to do, and then you can probably search it up on YouTube. But it's nice to know that everyone's trying to learn new stuff on their computers with what they're given. Like you're experimenting with 3D animation software. Jordan's learning Python. Jonathan's been learning things like that. I have like a keyboard and I set it up. I've been trying. I connected like a cool interface, like a USB interface for my like guitar, so that I can set that up to my computer. And there's like a lot of things to go with it, but honestly, you just kind of have to do it on like, and it's refreshing to have something just like to you can just do and learn about and genuinely be interested about, so that and the thing is, like, when you're doing this stuff, it can last for hours, but it feels like we have a lot of time on our hands anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Like, during my time trying to learn Blender, I really wanted to give up because, like, a bunch of stuff in Blender is really complicated, I want to say. But with all this time that I have on my hands, I decided that yeah, I might as well just keep learning it. I don't really have anything else to do.
Yeah.
So going back to the idea of like, remember when you said you like Blender was taking so long to figure out that you didn't really want to keep going with it? Well, I mean, we also have to talk about the fact that people are spending a lot more time on social media and really just with their electronics. So that might not be the
Yeah.
healthiest behavior.
Spending too much time on social media can really be mentally taxing. A lot of the times, like, teenagers will look towards social media to like to compensate for like any of their social needs. Like, they'll only talk to people on social media instead of talking to people like who are their friends. Just like they're also like, but also at the same time, like, increased like prolonged use of social media can really negatively affect kids who like are like teenagers who have like insecurity, because a lot of social media is built around like these idealized like images, whatever the heck it's on.
Yeah. No, Elijah, you make a good point, and it's
A lot of social media is built around like these idealized like images, whatever the heck it's on.
yeah. No, Elijah, you make a good point, and it's definitely true that like all of that stuff is still happening. It still used to happen when we weren't in quarantine, but with staying having to stay inside all the time, kind of having nothing else except for the electronics that you've built around you, it's so much easier to kind of slip into those things and not even realize it, and that can make it really difficult for everybody, especially teenagers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true, but like since everyone's stuck inside, there's like very little chance to interact with people. So I feel like social media is a good outlet for that, since literally no one else to talk to unless you have social media. That's practically the only way you can talk to your friends now, unless you go outside. But you know,
Well, I mean, well, going off of that, we can also talk about how like it's a when people don't like have the same, I would say, responsibility or the same consequence if they said something online. So surrounding yourself with that kind of toxicity might not be such a great
Sure.
idea.
So even though social media is obviously a really one of the, like Kenneth said, one of the few ways that we can communicate with people who are outside of our homes, but we have obviously the family around us that's inside of our homes, and quarantine has changed a lot of the dynamics that we've had to deal with. For example, there was for a considerable stretch of time, my dad had to work from home because going into his office wasn't an option with a lot of the stay at home stuff, right? And that kind of altered how, like, instead of him going to work every day, he would be here every day. And that altered how our entire family kind of had to function.
Yeah, that sounds kind of more like a positive impact, if anything, from this whole quarantine is that like aspect of like forced familial bonding,
Mm-hmm.
because we don't really have anywhere else to go right now.
Well, I mean, it can be a pro and a con because the more time you spend with someone and you're not used to spending that kind of space or like sharing that kind of space with somebody, it can be very strained after a while.
So, from what you were saying about like people being in close proximity, like really creating tension or like introducing like new dynamics to relationships, for like romantic relationships, like depending on the situation, some people will have to go through like long stretches of time away from each other, like away from like their significant other. And honestly, during this time, there has been like a lot. There's probably been I'm more than sure that there's been a lot of relationship issues. Really, if you're not interacting with your significant other like on a normal basis, it's basically like a long distance relationship. And if you're interacting with each other too much, then in some cases things can just fall apart. And during this time, especially with mental health being already an issue due to like prolonged boredom and lack of motivation in a lot of people, the breakdown of like relationships that are sure to come around this time can be helping with people's mental health.
Yeah, I think that as just like as a general rule, we don't like change, and nobody really had a chance to prepare for this. And like the way that we meet with each other, and the way that we, not only the amount that we see each other, but the way that we see each other, can kind of it causes everything to shift within the relationships that we have between each other.
I think that's good.
So part of having a relationship with each other is having a way to avoid boredom, right? Talking with each other, or to even see movies together and things like that. But there are also other ways to kind of relieve those that need for entertainment. And I know definitely video gaming has been a really kind of important thing for a lot of people.
Yeah. So
So what should just be
Jordan,
like?
Kenneth?
So
Do we speak? What?
Yes,
Yeah,
so,
should
so
on the
just be
whole-
like, I know personally, Kenneth and I have been playing a lot of video games together to get rid of the boredom. Kenneth, say something. Kenneth, just say something. Just say something. Say like, oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
That's where I was going with that. I wanted you to say something there.
Well, yeah, we have been playing games, but the problem with playing games during quarantine is like you're playing a lot. So because you can there comes a point to where playing games all day really like makes you bored of them. During the beginning of quarantine, right? We were really excited because we got to play games all day. There was no consequence. But as we kept playing, we reached a point where we kept getting bored of the games that we played, so we kept moving on, and it just became a constant cycle. And there was a point where we didn't have any games to play because we were bored of them all.
Yeah, overexposure to like the same video games over and over has definitely been like an issue, and like the boredom that comes with it is pretty hard to manage. But I guess at the end of the day, there's still like we still have something like to play, even if we don't think it's like the most fun in the world. It's still better than sitting there in silence.
Yeah, you kind of get jaded. You've been doing the same thing for way too long. You play too many CS:GO games. You play too many Siege games. You
Okay,
you
okay.
start to realize you
Okay,
you
okay.
start to realize what am I
I'm not bored of CS:GO. I am not
All
bored
right.
of CS:GO.
I'm not bored of Siege. Siege is the best shooter in the whole world, except it kind of sucks. We can cut this part out, by the way.
Yeah, that's not an endorsement from us. Just want to make that.
Like, so I understand that whole idea of like burning out, because, and honestly, I want to draw this line between competitive video games and just like regular story games. Competitive video games is way more addicting. Like that's where video gaming addiction like really comes from, because you can keep playing the same game over and over again because they made it like so that you can play it over and over again. And it's and that whole idea of getting better is like is instead of really investing it into physical health or whatever, you really just want to get better at this video game. And I completely agree with that, because each day I'm trying to play like some competitive like video games, some competitive shooters, and I'm trying to get a higher rank. And honestly, it's devastating sometimes if I because I actually care about like my rank or whatever. And sometimes if you're going off a hard loss, that does not help with your mental health during this quarantine. I will tell you that for a fact. But overall, like the only reason why like I honestly appreciate this sense of like addiction to video games or whatever, like competitive video games, is because time really does pass like so much faster when you're doing it, especially with friends. And that's the most important part, is that if you have friends like you and Jordan and Kenneth, you both play together. I mean, it's way more fun than just playing by yourself. If you play by yourself, you're basically just like, if you don't win, you're basically
It definitely feels terrible when you're playing by yourself and something doesn't go right. Like when you're with friends, you can at least like laugh about it or have the comfort of knowing that like they're there and they're experiencing it too.
Or
But
blame
when
them
you're
for it. Either way.
yeah, blaming them for it is also a very viable tactic.
viable coping mechanism.
Well, I agree with Elijah in that the games are definitely very addicting, and in times like this with the whole quarantine, the addicting nature of the games is definitely taking advantage of us.
So basically, like, video games may be taking advantage of us, but we're really taking advantage of the video games too. Because like we're all really just trying to pass some time, honestly. Because we're like, as a group, we're like, I think we can all say that we get lonely at times during this quarantine. We're all just trying to get through. We don't really want to think about how much time's gonna. We don't really want to think about how much time's gonna pass until things get back to quote unquote normal. And with the global impact, like like the physical and mental like health that we need to like compensate for, and the overall just like need to protect ourselves during this time, it's small things like video games and movies that we really have to just pay attention to. And with that, I think we can probably end the podcast.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Table Corner. Tune in 2 weeks for our next episode, where we'll be discussing mental health.
A big thank you to Miss Carr and Miss Johnson for allowing us to create this project. The Table Corner by Kenneth Lowe, Jordan Scott, Elijah Pepito, William Ashcraft, and Jonathan Thomas is licensed under CC BY NC SA 4.0. To view a copy of this license, visit creativecommons.org/licenses.